Thank you for joining Power to the Pod, a conversation that builds our community through an intellectual integrity and a moral honesty. Now your host, Superior.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy, Superior, and thank you for tuning in to Power to the Pod, which of course, power to you, power to me, power to the people, power to the pod. Now today, we're going to be talking about Mr. Bill Maher and his interview he had with Mr. Ben Shapiro. And if you don't know who Ben Shapiro is, go ahead, look him up. And I will warn you now that you will have some of those like gag reflexes, especially if you're just a person who can just rationally think about a certain situation or whatever the case is. And hearing him talk about solutions and what he sees, it's just a big nonsense. And we're going to be talking about democracy versus mob rule, in my opinion, on where America is at today and how we can get ourselves closer to a democracy that serves its people. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and start off with this Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro interview. And I watched about 80% of it. Once again, like I said, like just really hearing the nonsense that they kind of went back and forth. It was just like really hard to stomach. It was like really hard to listen to. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever just heard two people's conversation and you're just thinking to yourself, like, how are they paying you guys to talk about political matters? Like, how is it that you two have the platform that you have talking ridiculously as you are now? You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly, so, you know, I had to pause it, kind of fast forward, because they were just feeding into that same Republican nonsense spew that you would hear on Fox News. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that I think they tried to purposely do, and that's what kind of made this interview so cringy, was they're obviously, I guess, on opposite sides. Bill Maher is supposed to be a Democrat, but he is well known for kind of being harsh on the Democrats, which I guess you're supposed to be. Like, I don't understand how that's such a big phenomenon, but like, that makes sense, right? You know, but whatever, he's well known for that. And Ben Shapiro is known for being a Republican Jew who just, you know, kind of dabbles in some racism, dabbles in a whole bunch of isms that offend people. But you know how the the right wing does it. They just pay their people really good to say talking points, no matter how crazy it is. And they do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy to me. But it was some key moments that I really want to talk about. Like, we could just really go through the whole entire hour video, but I think that's doing a little too much. But it was two key things that I really wanted to kind of pinpoint and kind of have a conversation about. One is racism. Like, Bill Maher kind of says something interesting about racism and then quickly diverted into wokeism. And I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this podcast, I'm pretty sure you know how the right wing kind of morphed what woke is and made it into a, you know, whatever you want to put bad, just put it into the woke basket. And that's how we're going to define wokeism. So listen to this clip and we will be right back.
In a lot of trouble as far as winning elections, which I assume is what they're still trying to do.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, I think wokeness is such electoral poison for Democrats, not just because it's treating people as members of identity groups that they may not see as their chief signifier, but also because, to a certain extent, they're only appealing to certain identity groups. I think that there are a lot of Hispanics in America who looked at the platform of Black Lives Matter in 2020, which said, get rid of the cops don't need to be here, defund the police. And there are a lot of Hispanics who are saying, wait a second, I'm upwardly mobile economically. I'm socially mobile. I also may live in an area that has high crime. This does not seem like a good plan to me. And so moving in terms of this agenda and making this kind of tip of the spear, the argument for a lot of Hispanics that America is a deeply racist, unfixable place, that doesn't apply to a lot of people. It's an argument that really applies to a very narrow segment of the American population.
No, I always say, let's live in the year we're living in. Because sometimes when the people you're talking about, you think it was, 1960 or 1860, and it's like, yes, we have a very sorry history racially in this country, including a lot of stuff that's still going on right now. I mean, it's not like racism is extirpated here in America, but it is very different than it was, and we need to live in the present era, in the present time with the present conditions. But when you say woke, it's become, and I make fun of it too, because it's become an eye roll in many ways. If woke, I assume at a certain moment, and it wasn't that long ago before we didn't have the term. I only heard it, I don't know what it was, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago at most, when we heard the term woke, and it was like alert to injustice. I'm like, okay, I'm down with that. I always have been. I hope people still understand that about me. But yes, it became sort of a byword for a lot of this goofy stuff. That's what I'm always railing against. That's why, they play me on Fox News now.
So one thing that I would love to point out, if I was in front of Bill Maher right now, I'd be like, hey, what do you mean we should live in our time? I understand what that means, but he pointed out, we're not in the 60s. We're not in the 1860s. It's like, okay, got you. And you say racism isn't eradicated. It's not gone. It's not solved. So give me some examples on how racism is still around. That would have been a good question for Ben Shapiro to ask Bill Maher. But of course, they don't want to dabble too deep, into these questions. And one thing I noticed with this whole interview is they just kept it really surface level, patty cake. Let's just agree on these things and kind of look like we're on the same team here. But I guarantee if I was to ask that question to either of them, then you can start to see the nonsense that they believe in. You can say, yeah, racism is still here. Well, give me some examples. Maybe policing, maybe systemically, still with voting and poverty, healthcare. It's just so many examples and questions that I would just love to dig just a little bit deeper, just to kind of split up this whole oh, look at, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, and this is all we need is just to conversate. It's no. What do you think we do? Why do you think I'm making this podcast? Just to hear myself speak? Well, I mean, I do like hearing myself speak, but I mean, that's not the point. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to have a conversation with somebody on the other side, ask questions that will dig a little deeper, and just maybe, we might find some conclusions or some answers, or we can really figure out who's for the people and who is not. You know what I'm saying? But just this surface level conversation, pity pat, walk through the park type interviews, bro, that's just a waste of time. But I mean, that's not even the whole picture here. That was just one little instance I had an issue with. But then he quickly resorted to wokeism. And it's interesting because he said wokeism first started off as a social justice. You know what I'm saying? Someone gets done bad, is discriminated against, we're going to speak out on it. You know what I'm saying? We're tired of letting it slide under the rug back in the old days where people wouldn't speak out. So they were sleeping, quote unquote, sleeping. Now we're awake. That's why it's called wokeism. But it's funny how he made an example of defund the police, because he said with wokeism, I was down for it at first. But then, people start, just being too woke. For example, shaming Adele for losing weight. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with losing weight? But there were people speaking bad about her. And when I say people, like probably, Adele's pretty famous and there's a lot of ignorant people in the world. So, a few thousands on Twitter. And sometimes a few thousand on Twitter seems like it's more than what it is. You take a few thousand compared to how many people just live in America. That's really nothing. But you know how Twitter kind of amplifies these people's voices. And of course, Bill Maher didn't like how woke turned into something more toxic, which I agree. But then you can't use that same theory and understanding for, let's say, defunding the police. Defunding the police, when it first started, we already understood what that meant. Distribute police funds differently, so maybe that can solve some issues like healthcare workers, better training, maybe bail money for people who can't afford it in jail until they see their court date. Just really simple things to help people instead of just pumping more money into weapons and making the police more militarized. Like that doesn't really help. But another here or there, he doesn't understand how the right took something that was good and turned it into something bad. So now when people say woke, it's now a bad thing. And it's like, is it really bad to be understanding and aware of your surroundings and other people's feelings and their perspective on life? Is that bad? If a man wants to be called a woman or a woman wants to be called a man, who cares? That's their perspective. That's their life. They can do what they want. You know what I'm saying? TV shows. Yeah. I have an issue with my kids watching a woman kissing a woman or a man kissing a man, but I also have a problem with my kids watching a woman kiss a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want them watching anything. We got to be fair here. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand how they can have a truthful conversation about being woke and how that's a bad thing if they don't dig a little deeper. Just ask them, what's some things wrong with being aware of other people that you live next to? Same with critical race theory. You know damn well they ain't teaching that to our kids. But Fox News and the Republicans will get you to think that critical race theory will have your 5-year-old white son hating his parents and having a 5-year-old black child hating himself because of racism. And it's like, bro, I barely know what critical race theory means. It will take someone who spent years upon years upon years of reading and understanding what critical race theory is. And we're definitely going to do an episode about that. And let alone explaining that to a 5-year-old, a simple third grade teacher teaching that to a 5, like, it's just ridiculous. So it's just weird how these Republicans can continue to take something, change it up, and then now use it for their benefit. It's just weird to me. But then there's another clip where they're talking about politics and how Bill Maher would say politics is tearing America apart. Take a listen.
About any of what we talked about today, because my theme is often, this is how we get our country back. People talk politics too much. When I was a kid, people never talked politics. It was almost considered impolite to talk about politics or religion. I remember my parents with their friends, and these were people who were very close. They never talked. I think sometimes they didn't even know what religion they were. They were like, I think they're Episcopalian. We don't. And now all people talk about is politics. It's arguing with some kid you went to high school with. You're in chem lab together. And now you have to talk about who's on the Supreme Court. And that's, I think, what is tearing America apart.
So now one thing that I would push back, and I spent plenty of time thinking about this. I even asked myself, why am I so invested into politics? And here's my answer. Because why not? You know what I'm saying? Who is going to tell me what's going on in the world for my benefit? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you know how they say, you know, if you want something done, do it yourself type thing. You know, like, if you want to understand why gas is up an extra $3, $4, are you going to listen to other people? No, I mean, let's even back up from there. Are you just going to look at the gas pump and be like, okay, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Or when you apply to 4 or 5 different jobs and all of them are paying garbage wages, are you just going to be like, okay, I guess this is all I have? You know what I'm saying? Or when you take your kids to school and you're looking around like, man, this place hasn't been like renovated in like 20 years and the textbooks are like, you know, outdated. Like, what is going on here? Are you just gonna be like, all right, I guess that's just what I have to deal with? If you say yes, then you probably shouldn't be listening to this. You know what I'm saying? Because I actually care. And not just for me, for other people. You know what I'm saying? Just because my kids are homeschooled, I want your kids to go to the best public school as possible. But guess what? That's not going to happen. If we don't partake in politics in any level, you know, you don't even have to run for any seats or presidents or mayor. Like, you don't even have to do all that. Just have a voice and speak out. I want you. I get paid decently. You know, I have my complaints. But I mean, you go to Walmart or something and get paid like $17-$16 an hour. I care about that. You know what I'm saying? I care about how much you get paid because guess what? We're in this together. We're on the same team here. You know what I'm saying? Like it's tatted on my hands, power to the people. I actually mean that. You know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, black and brown people, non-white people, and even some white people, I ain't going to throw them to the curb like that. But if you're doing well off and you grew up not really having to deal with, you know, some of the economical situations that a lot of people have to, you may not even care about politics. But unfortunately, I have to. Because like I said, I look around the world and I'm trying to figure out why things are moving a certain way and how come, you know, this is only happening to a certain group of people. It's like, why and what needs to be done? I don't have that privilege to not care about what's going on around me. I don't have the privilege to not care about how I'm getting healthcare and the quality of my healthcare. I don't have the privilege to not worry about how much I get paid an hour and all the jobs around me are low quality jobs. Yeah, it's a lot of jobs. Congratulations. You know, every month they were like, hey, another 250,000 jobs were created. It's like, yeah, but how many of those jobs are good quality jobs? Probably very few. I don't have the privilege to not worry about that. You know what I'm saying? And another thing is greed. Greed is what's destroying, tearing apart America. Anything, Republicans and Democrats, I don't care who it is, bruh. Spend like 10 minutes on YouTube and Google just about anyone right now who has a seat, who has a hand in government. And I guarantee you can find something shady. You know what I'm saying? It's probably very few people you can count on one hand that's like pretty decent. You know what I'm saying? Healthcare is what's tearing America apart. Not politics. Politics is just a fancy word of a conversation of a certain kind. You know what I'm saying? Like politics isn't, religion is probably more dividing and decisive than politics. You know what I'm saying? Poverty is what's tearing America apart. So, I mean, if you are honest in a conversation when it revolves politics, it shouldn't turn toxic. You shouldn't hate the other person. If you're having an honest to God, deep, tap in conversation, then you should be able to realize the person you're talking to either one, loves you and want to see you and your family do good, or two, they don't care about you. They only care about themselves and their pockets. And unfortunately, I can't roll with people who only care about themselves. So, I mean, I honestly see politics like, a test, like a yearly checkup that you go to your doctors about. You know what I'm saying? They just check your vitals, make sure everything on the inside is working properly. And when they reveal, a cancer or something that needs to be treated right then and there, they can do that. But if you continue to neglect your body, you continue to not care about your well-being, your health, the thing that keeps you alive, then finally when you pass out at work and then they rush you to the hospital, then a doctor finally reveals to you that you have a cancer, and unfortunately it's a little too late to help you. If you would have cared about it a long time ago, maybe we could have even taken it out of you or kind of gave you an extra 10, 15 years of living, but it's too late. And that's how I see politics. Yeah, you can go through life not caring about what's going on in your world. But then when you have kids or grandkids and they come to you, be like, hey, why is this world so messed up? What were you doing? What are you going to tell them? Oh, I was just chilling. I was just getting my paper. You know what I'm saying? I was working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I didn't have time. And then they going to look at you and be like, damn, man, I wish you could have done something. You know what I'm saying? Just speak out, man. Because it's not always just about you. But that leads us, if I can transition is good. I don't know if this is a good transition, but that goes to the next conversation on how we can venture closer to a democracy that we all, I would just assume, envision having. You know what I'm saying? Like, we pointed out the issues. Now it's time to, at least to the best of my ability, come up with some solutions. You know what I'm saying? And if you're listening, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Go to my website, powertothepodcast.com. Let me know if I'm missing something or if you want to add in something. But it's this TV show that me and my family is watching. It's called Superstore, okay, on Hulu. And it's, just really, it's a funny show. About 10, 15 employees work at this grocery store, and, just various situations happen to each person that's working there. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's weird how you find these hidden gems in these TV shows. Like with this one, which kind of inspired this section here. They were trying to decide something, just some raffle contest and how it's going to be presented or whatever. And the boss guy was like, hey, we all need to come together and figure this out. And one person sitting down, person A, we'll call him, he was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And then the manager guy was like, no, this is like a democracy. And person A was like, it's more like mob rule. And then another person who was kind of overhearing, he was like, what's the difference? Then I started thinking to myself, like, what is the difference? Now, of course, just if you ask that someone, if you was to ask someone that, just right off the bat, they'd be like, I mean, it has to be a difference. Mob rule is more like, well, I actually got the definition here. Let's just go and get into the notes here. Mob rule from Google says, control of a political situation by those outside the conventional or lawful realm, typically involving violence and or intimidation. And a little example, I like this example, says the leadership were criticized for giving in to mob rule. So that right off the bat lets you know that intimidation, violence usually follows with these group of people. It could be a large group of people. It could be a small group. But if they're a small group, they got to be a really violent group. But normally it would have to be a large group. I'm just assuming, you know what I'm saying? Or rich. I think, I'm already spilling the beans here, but it would have to be more of a rich few. If it's only a few people, they're really wealthy and they can really have an influence on government and the people working in it. Now, a democracy. Now, once I read this, ask yourself, are we living in a true democracy? Okay. A system of government by the whole population or the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. Now, normally with this type of democracy, you have a population coming together. Majority usually has the say. If it's 100 people in the room and they're trying to figure out, do they want chocolate cake or vanilla cake? You know what I'm saying? And 80% or 80 people out of the 100 say they want chocolate cake. Well, guess what? They're going to have chocolate cake. You know what I'm saying? And even sometimes there's a special rule where, people who wanted the vanilla cake get the vanilla cake. But for the most part, for example, the majority gets what they want. Now, of course, we don't live in that. You know what I'm saying? If I had to place where we're at as 5 being right in the middle, 10 is a democracy, a perfect democracy, and 1 is like hell breaking loose. There's no laws that would keep anybody civilized. That's 1. That's mob rule. I would say we're closer to like a 4, 3.5. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of ridiculous on how we're there. And I want to do another segment on how we can keep ourselves from going backwards. But on this episode, we're going to talk about, let me open my notes here. We're going to talk about what it would take for us to get out of the 3.5, 4 zone and get us at least to a 7, 8, 9. And hopefully one day while I'm still alive, a 10. You know what I'm saying? Now, one thing I want to throw out is, if you're listening to this and you on that spectrum that I created, with 5 in the middle, 10 of democracy, and a 1 is mob rule. And if you placed where we're at today from a 7 and up, I would say you're delusional. I would say you're missing something here. Either you're really wealthy, and if you're listening to this and you got some money, go ahead, donate. Don't be shy. Donate to me. Help what I'm trying to do. Go to powertothepodcast.com. It's all set up for you. But yeah, you're delusional. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of reasons why you're delusional. 1, is our elections. Our elections is not even close to being a democracy. We have gerrymandering. We have electoral college. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of that. Then we have just weirdos still denying facts even after the matter. It's like, that's not a democracy. You know what I'm saying? Financial. Look how the wealth gap is here in America. That's a democracy? Do you think 80% of some people want to live in poverty, want to barely make it check by check, can barely save up $200-$300 just in case something happens? Do you think they want that? Do you think they voted for that? I don't think so. You see what I'm saying? And in a democracy, money doesn't rule. If this was a true democracy, money would not be an influence in our government. And we already know that is what's happening. That is 90% of why people move the way they do in Congress. You wonder why Joe Manchin all of a sudden is going against the grain of what his whole entire party wants to do. Why do you think that is? Maybe some of that. Come on. You already know it. Do I have to say it? Do I have to say the M word? Do I really have to say it? That's all I'm saying. Money cannot be in politics. That is a big no-no. Even in the Bible, it says money, the love of money is the root of all evil. And bro, I ain't got it like that, but I'm pretty sure if I was rolling like some of these Democrats and Republicans, I'd probably be in some trouble too. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that kind of keeps this in place is that it's embedded into our system. This is what you call systematic. It's just kind of in our communities. It's in our, it's what's running the country right now. So it's hard to just be like, oh, okay, let's just change our electoral college process. No. Oh my God. You have a better chance of raising the minimum wage to a livable wage. I mean, healthcare for all seems a lot more possible than changing the electoral college. You know what I'm saying? But now that we're getting into some solutions here are some of the solutions I think we can try to aim for if we want a real democracy. First, we got to start with the Constitution. And if you haven't heard my last episode where I talk about Mr. Mistal, and I'm still listening to his book, where he's talking about the Constitution and how it's trash, then you will understand why that would have to be like the top 3 things you would have to do first. Because a lot of these Republicans turn to the Constitution like it's a living, breathing, understanding what's going on today type document. And it's like, bro, no, it's not. You're actually far from it. So we would have to just reconstruct that whole entire thing and make it to where it serves everybody today. And another example is Supreme Court, Supreme seats limits. Some of these people, let me say this. If someone who is sitting on the courts, the Supreme Court right now, and they're over like 70, what the hell are they doing making decisions that affect people today? Like, can anybody answer that? Why is somebody who thinks phones are just a distraction? You know what I'm saying? Like when old people are like, oh, you and your phones. It's just like, bruh, these phones right here can solve a lot of problems. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the progression of humanity. And if your mind is stuck back in the 40s, bruh, come on. You do not need to be making decisions about the world today. Do you remember the Kyle Rittenhouse trial where the judge didn't understand the pinch and zoom process on a video? He literally thought when you pinch and zoom in by spreading your fingers apart on the screen, the device will automatically put in random objects in your video. Like, my Samsung device put a gun in this person's hands just by me zooming in. And he honestly believed that. If you don't believe me, go watch the video. It's like, bro, you are too old to be having an important position that you do and not understand what a pinch and zoom is. Get somebody a little younger. I'm pretty sure they can do that. Do you see what I'm saying? So we need term limit. Like, once you hit 10 years, you're done. You're out. Go ahead, retire, have fun. You know what I'm saying? And another thing is no more state rights. And once again, we're going to dig a little deeper into this because I think this is really important. But some of these states, bro, it doesn't work when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to policing, when it comes to gun control, when it comes to minimum wage. It's like, no, once the government, once the head, once the the seats say something goes, it needs to just be a blanket just across America. I don't care if Joe Biden says minimum wage is $25 an hour. No state should be able to be like, well, we're just going to kind of do it like this, or just like, no. Once again, I have a whole bunch of notes. This would be like an 1.5-hour video if we start getting into that. But for the basic here, no more states' rights. Get that out the way. What I touched on before, one vote for presidents. You know what I'm saying? No more electoral college, popular vote. Like I said, if it's 100 people and 80 people vote for chocolate cake, we all getting chocolate cake. You know what I'm saying? No more this weird electoral, like, it still hurts my brain trying to figure out who the hell and why the hell they decided to run with that. And once again, it was one of those things where it may have worked in the 1600s. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't work in 2022. It's so much confusion. It's so much, and it's almost right a reason why people don't care about voting, because technically your one vote doesn't count, because technically all your votes goes to the one person. And if that person doesn't care about the results that he sees and he just wants to go with person B, then guess what? You're kind of screwed. You know what I'm saying? But one vote, popular vote, and that's it. And make voting a holiday, because people, regular folks, can't just be taking days off. I mean, you got to stay in the hot line, you know what I'm saying? Or cold, depending on where you live in. And, you know, they put out rules where people can't pass out waters or pizza, you know what I'm saying? Because you stand in that line for a nice minute. Make it a holiday. People don't want to take off work for that. One, they can't. I mean, they miss one day, some ain't getting paid. You know what I'm saying? So make it a holiday. Make it to where people are encouraged to vote. I mean, I think that sounds pretty simple, right? Another thing that I kind of briefly touched on, no more money in politics. Make these dudes get their weekly paycheck like me. And don't let it be a whole bunch. You know what I'm saying? Make them want to make the government work for them, which will work for everybody. Have these dudes get paid like $16 an hour. Then they will understand that it's not a livable wage. They will want to increase it. And I guarantee it, if you made it like that, you would get so much done. Minimum wage will be increased to like a livable wage, depending on where you live. It would be done like that. I guarantee it. All these rich folks sitting in those seats right now with their $300 suits, I guarantee they will pass. Oh, healthcare? Oh no, they don't get no healthcare. They don't get it. Oh, I guarantee you they'll make it healthcare for all. Quick, fast, in a hurry. And then another thing, I want full transparency of tax spending. Like J. Cole said in one of his songs, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, I want to see everything that I'm funding on an app on my screen, because I don't trust these people that I've never seen and they taking all my money. That makes sense, right? These money hungry people taking my hard money and putting it into where? Exactly. I couldn't think of anything either, but it's going somewhere, right? You know, they taking about $200 out of my check. And I don't know where it's going. Prison reform. There has to be a thing, right? Like, why is there people benefiting off of prisons doing well? That does not make any sense. Do you feel me? Like, just say it to yourself. People profit off of prisons doing well. Well, if that's the case, they will want a lot of people going to their prisons, which is not a good thing. We should not be treating people like that. Do you see what I'm saying? And we need to figure out other solutions instead of just throwing people into prison. And a lot of it is poor folks. Then they're sitting in jails waiting for their court dates. And, you know, good luck with that, because it's not going to be like same day or next day. They're sitting in the prisons or in the jails, and because one, they don't have no bond money. So they're sitting in there. And if they do have bond money, guess who's getting that money? The bondsman. Which, what does he want? More people going to prison, because that helps their business. Jesus, that sounds bad saying it out loud. Do you see just the whole problem with that? They want more people going through prison to profit off of it. That's a no-no. Then, of course, tax the rich. My gosh, these people are not special. Most of them are crooks. Most of them have stepped on people to get to where they're at. And yes, you may have done something. I don't want to call it work, because I've been to work. You know what I'm saying? Most of these millionaires ain't never seen a day's work. Nah, bruh, you live here, you're paying. We're all a team here. Oh, you want to take your company elsewhere, across to another country? Guess what? Tariffs, bruh. We gonna tax that ass one way or another. You know what I'm saying? Tax the rich. And last, well, it's definitely not last. So I'm pretty sure if we spent more time thinking about this, we can come up with like 10, 15, 20 more things. But of course, it goes without saying. Reparations. Reparation. I need to make sure I'm saying that clear and loud and clear. Reparations needs to already have been paid like yesterday. How long since it's been? Since you promised my ancestors 20 acres and a mule? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? And this is bro, if I could slap the next dude that says America is a democracy, I would. I ain't playing. We need to come together and like Bill and against what Bill Maher said. Why worry about politics? Like, we need to talk about other things like Pokemon Go and, about, what sport teams are like. Bro, do you understand the world that's going on around you? These people taking your money and bombing other countries. You don't understand that? All I can say is it's time to wake up.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to join the conversation by subscribing. Make sure to tune in next time, and like always, power to you, power to me, power to the people, power to the pod.